A happy hour Friday turns into a Sal Pal Friday as ESPN's Sal Paolantonio set to join us here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. He has been at the NovaCare Center all day. Talked to Nick Sirianni. We're going to get his thoughts on the mood of the team as they get ready for Super Bowl 59. And we do that now with ESPN's national NFL correspondent, Sal Paolantonio, who will be covering the Philadelphia Eagles at Super Bowl 59. He joins us now for another edition of Sal Pal Fridays here on the Sports Bash. Well, Sal, I was away for 2 weeks, but the Eagles have given me one more game to cover, and it will be in New Orleans. It will be Super Bowl 59, and I know you are busy and hard at work giving us a couple of minutes today at the NovaCare Complex all day long. What's the mood of this team, Sal, as they get ready for something that, man, eluded them big time last year?
Yeah, Michael, I think you can sum it up in 2 words: unfinished business. That's what Nick Sirianni told me. They went through an intense self-scouting period to try to figure out what they need to do to get better to beat the Kansas City Chiefs this time after losing Super Bowl 57 2 years ago. They are gritty into the details and game planning this week, trying to install as much as they possibly can before they get on the plane on Sunday. But I think unfinished business. There's a calmness about the team, though. I would say they're calm and they're confident, but they understand that there really isn't any substitution. There's no way that they can lose this game. They've got everything in place. Best offensive line, best defense they've had in 20 years here, and this guy named Saquon Barkley, number 26.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley, big difference from the last time they played. They could not run the ball in that game against Kansas City a couple of years ago. But give us a little insight. We saw some stuff with you and Nick Sirianni today at NovaCare, sitting down with the head football coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, much maligned by many after the Jacksonville game. And here we are, his second Super Bowl in 4 tries.
Yeah, and Michael, he's been sort of up and down all year long. People wanted to fire him after they lost to Tampa. People were calling him a clown. If you remember, you and I were talking. I said, I don't like name calling. That's not appropriate, especially when you're talking about a family man who's a head football coach in the NFL. Yeah, he did some jawing with fans, but you can't call him a clown when he's gone to the Super Bowl and now he's going back. So I've always thought that he had it in him to right the ship. He's got a great redemption story. I consider it a great blessing and opportunity for me personally. To be covering the Eagles for 34 years, 30 years on ESPN, to go back to a Super Bowl and be embedded with this football team and all this talent and this opportunity in front of them to win a Super Bowl championship, for me, it is an unbelievable opportunity. It's eyes wide open all the way through. And I think with Sirianni, that's the case too. When I asked him, what's the mood of the team? And he said, it's togetherness. And Jordan Mailata talked a little bit about that too and said, this team is more together than the team that went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And you're right. You look at Miles Sanders' numbers in Super Bowl 57, 0 catches, 7 carries for 16 yards. Jalen Hurts was the entire offense, Michael, in Super Bowl 57 against the Chiefs. He had 304 yards passing and 70 yards rushing. He led the team in throwing the football and running with the football. He was the entire team.
He was.
Offensively. So now you add Saquon Barkley. So I think they are set up to win this game. Now, you and I will talk on Radio Row in New Orleans next Friday. I promise that I will make it down there. I'll do everything that I possibly can. Obviously, barring any late breaking news, I will get my rear end to Radio Row and be live with you on Radio Row for a Sal Pal Friday on the Sports Bash. Well, and then we'll pick the game then, Michael.
Yeah,
I can't pick the game 1 week in advance. I can't do that, Michael.
No. We got to get more information. But I will say this: most people, I don't want to see if you are included, think the Eagles 53 is better than the Chiefs 53. Would you agree with that?
Well, no, I would not, because you got Patrick Mahomes the second. I mean, he's the total Michael Jordan package. So I'm not ready to.
That's the thing. I think the Eagles have the better 53, but they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And how much does that neutralize having the better 53?
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion, but for purposes of winning or losing the game, it really doesn't matter. So the game will come down to this. It'll come down to two things. We can talk a lot about it all week long, analyze it, go through the tape, blah, blah, blah. One, are you figuring out what Steve Spagnuolo is dialing up for you diabolically on third and fourth down in the high leverage situations of the game? What blitz is coming and from where and by whom? So have they got that figured out? Jeff Stoutland, Kellen Moore, Doug Nussmeier, Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, Kenny Pickett. Everybody's got Ian Book. I don't bring everybody in the room. What do you see? What do you see? Mike Gill, Josh, your producer, bring them all in the room. What do you got? What do you see from Spagnuolo? That's one. And number two, if I'm Nick Sirianni, I am knocking on Vic Fangio's door. And I'm saying, all right, Paisan, it's me and you. I got a couple of Americanos here with a double espresso shot. We're going to be here all night. We're going nowhere until you tell me what your plan is for Patrick Mahomes on third and fourth down in the fourth quarter. What's your plan?
Yeah,
well, I want to see what it looks like.
Fangio, by the way, 0-8 against Patrick Mahomes in his career. So that would be a great first win, would be this one. But I don't know. I mean, and you take a look at the Chiefs offensively. I think I read, Sal, of all the teams that have ever reached the Super Bowl, they have the second least explosive plays in history of any team to make it this far. So who's the guy that worries you?
But they didn't need explosive plays in Super Bowl 57 because Mahomes kept them on the field. Let me remind you, and everybody listening to this program, stuck on the AC Expressway or wherever you are, Michael, Patrick Mahomes had 15 first down conversions in the second half of Super Bowl 57 against an Eagles team that led the league in sacks for most of the season. So that's why I say, yeah, it's okay. It's an academic exercise to compare the 53 to the 53, but Mahomes is the best improviser on a football field that I think we've seen in two generations. So it's different. And why is Fangio 0-8? Well, 6 times with Denver, they stunk. Twice with the Dolphins, they didn't care. So, yeah, I get it. Fangio's 0-8 in those 8 games. Mahomes has 10 touchdown passes, only 2 interceptions. But most important, Mahomes scrambled or ran for 126 yards in those 8 games. So I need to know what the plan is. Is it Oren Burks, who spied Jaden Daniels a little bit against the Commanders in the NFC Championship game? Hard to compare Jaden Daniels to Patrick Mahomes. You're basically comparing Michael Jordan to a young Scottie Pippen. It's not the same comparison. But, Fangio's defense is much, much, much better than it was in Denver and Miami. You got Jalen Carter, you got Zach Barnes, you got Quinyon Mitchell, you got Big Base Play, you got GJ. I mean, you got players that are much, much better on this defense, and I think he'll have a much better plan going into this game. They know what killed them in Super Bowl 57. They know exactly what killed them. You and I could plug in the tape right now and watch the broadcast on NFL Network, which I'm sure will run all weekend long, and we can see what Gannon failed to do. Gannon was probably worried about getting a job in Arizona. Maybe that was the thing that distracted him, but that defense was horrible.
Well, they're going to have the same problem this time around with Kellen Moore.
I don't think that they will. I think Kellen Moore is more out in the open about it than Gannon was.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because it looks like he's going to get an interview and most likely will be the next coach of the Saints. You've been around NovaCare all day. Any gut feeling to start on Brandon Graham's availability and what he could mean if he can play?
We will know how he is classified in the injury report the next couple of days. I'm sure he'll be limited. I saw him moving today. He looked fine in terms of, just moving around. But, you got to tackle with a repaired triceps.
Yeah.
And you got to rush the passer, and you got to be able to punch as a pass rusher against very big offensive linemen. And to do that with a brace on a torn triceps, don't know. They've been okay without him. It's a nice story.
Yeah.
And he helped them. Not sure yet, Michael. Just not sure. I think the bigger issue is Landon Dickerson.
I was going to say, the follow-up was going to be the offensive line, Juergens, Dickerson. What's the feeling on those two guys?
Well, Landon Dickerson, if you watch the tape of the game, could hardly move his leg. He was just basically running around on one leg.
Yeah.
So he's somebody you definitely have to watch. If they can't play with Landon Dickerson and Juergens still has a back issue, that could be a problem.
Yeah, that's certainly. Now, I'll tell you, I'm in Thailand. It's 3:00 in the morning, so I'm half asleep, but I was awake at 3 a.m. watching the game. Tyler Steen.
I should hope so.
Yeah, Tyler Steen steps in, and you don't even notice that he's out there, and that's a good thing when you play offensive line. I mean, and we know the Eagles have won a Super Bowl with Big V playing left tackle, so it can be done with the guy stepping in if he does his job, and that's a big thing. Oren Burks has stepped in and done his job. Tyler Steen has stepped in and done his job.
Love Oren Burks. Very athletic, long arms, 6'3", long legs, covers a lot of ground.
Yep.
Good tackler. Oren Burks has stepped up, and this is a guy who was picked on by the Chiefs last year in the Super Bowl when he was with San Francisco.
Well, they might have that tape.
The numbers are not good.
No.
Look at them. They threw right at Oren Burks, and they lit it up when they threw at him.
Well, we're back. We'll be back next week, and say hello to Johnny G over there for me. You say hello to Johnny G. I'll say hello to him. I'm sure he's going to be texting you, giving you all the lowdown on what he thinks about this game.
Johnny G better get down to New Orleans and hang out with us. That's all I got to say.
All right, I will be down there Tuesday, and we will talk to Sal Pal on a Sal Pal Friday next week. Sal, we'll talk to you then.
Okay, Michael, so much. I'll see you then.
All right, he is at the NovaCare and back at it right now as you can see his interview with Nick Sirianni this weekend on ESPN Sal Pal Friday.